When you think of the movie business, the first location that probably comes to mind is Hollywood. That sign is as iconic to the industry as a John Williams score, a red carpet, or, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. But what if I told you that your favorite movies aren't getting made in La La Land anymore? And that doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. Money, copyright, taxes, and more money. That's up next on Fact Bites. But before we dive into the wild world of movie magic, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our industry insights. Okay, let's travel back over a century to the birth of modern movies, because the truth is, Hollywood hasn't always been the beating heart of cinema. See, the heart of movie making actually started beating on the East Coast, specifically in West Orange, New Jersey. That's where famous inventor and mild dirtbag Thomas Edison filed patents for both the kinetograph, our first ever movie camera, as well as the kinetoscope, the precursor to modern theater projectors. We could talk for a while about how Edison didn't actually do a lot of the work involved in creating any of this tech, or about how he filed a bunch of caveats while it was still in development, basically patents before there was an actual product to patent, but that's maybe another video altogether. What we will talk about is how Edison held those patents for the camera and projector and then set up the first ever studio, the Black Maria, to record the content with and for the camera and projector. No use holding those patents if you don't have the content, right? By many accounts, Edison didn't think much of the new moving picture industry, but as its popularity grew, so did competing businesses. As holder of the patents for many of the parts making up both the cameras and the projectors, Edison was able to halt production and distribution in the US with lawsuits against anyone who used his technology without his permission. This included a lawsuit against William K.L. Dixon, the man many people conclude did do the majority of the work on inventing Edison's kinetograph, who then went on to leave Edison's lab and form his own company, probably because Edison was, as previously stated, kind of a dirtbag. When competition and lawsuits proved too irksome, Edison changed tactics and decided to join forces with all his competitors to form one big trust, the Motion Picture Patents Company, so that they'd all be making more money while squashing competition from independent and international filmmakers. Under the authority of this trust, movies could only be made if you obtained a license to operate the equipment that one of the trustees had a patent on. They could also only be screened by theaters that had licensed projectors. These theaters were only screening films that they rented from the trust. Oh, and the trust had an agreement with the Eastman Kodak Company, the biggest producer of film strip at the time, that they would only sell film to approved licensees. So if you weren't paying into this massive Ponzi scheme, you weren't making movies. Cut from the East Coast to the West. It's the early 1900s, and California might as well be Mars in legal terms. Independent filmmakers like Carl Laemmle, William Fox, and Adolf Zukor discovered that not only did a small town outside of Los Angeles, California have much better weather for filming, pretty important when the sun is your primary light source, but it was also near impossible for Edison or his trust to enforce their patent laws from across the country. And thus, Hollywood was born on the backs of independent film pirates, a hilarious reversal on today's modern filmmaking era, especially considering that Laemmle, Fox, and Zukor would go on to become the founding fathers of Universal Pictures, 20th Century Studios, and Paramount Pictures, respectively. Since that time, Hollywood became and maintained its status as the epicenter of the filmmaking world, so much so that it became synonymous with filmmaking in general. If you wanted to make movies, Hollywood was the place you wanted to go. It's where you networked, it's where you sold ideas, and it's where all the cast and crew and studio space was for the actual filmmaking. And that was pretty much the case in both film and television for the next, 70 to 80 years? But flash forward to the 1980s. Hollywood is now a non-stop entertainment machine, churning out content at lightning speed. But thanks to rising costs, producers are looking for ways to stretch their budgets without scaling back on talent or content. The Canadian dollar costs US producers only 85 cents, a surefire way to make those dollars stretch as far as they can. Enter Hollywood North, a nickname originally given to Toronto in the 1970s, but regularly applied to Ontario, Vancouver, and British Columbia in the decades since. 85 cents to the dollar means locations are cheaper, materials are cheaper, catering is cheaper, and most likely, labor is cheaper too. Now, back in the 80s, the average cost to produce and release a movie was somewhere around $17.4 million, and costs per episode of television were in the hundreds of thousands. In spite of rising costs, studios were then, as they are now, and will forever be, constantly trying to shrink budgets to maximize profits. When 85 cents gets you more over the border than $1 does in California, it just makes financial sense to move production up north. Then, in 1995, Canada further sweetened the deal by approving the Canadian Film or Video Production Tax Credit, CPTC, and then later, the Film or Video Production Services Tax Credit, PSTC, which provided tax breaks for any production that moved to film in Canada. Today, those policies mean that a production can receive at least 25% tax credit, but in some cases up to 65% tax credit, depending on where in Canada you're filming and how many of your cast and crew are Canadian. No wonder so many of our favorite shows have a distinctly Canadian flavor to their scenery and extras. Today, all those numbers have only increased. The average cost to produce a film is now around $100 million, and the price per episode of a hit TV series varies wildly. Your favorite sitcom might be around $3.5 million, while an epic like the first season of Rings of Power is more like $60 million. That is not a joke. The first season of Rings of Power cost $465 million to produce. Divided by 8 episodes, and you're looking at $58,125,000 per episode, roughly $62 million adjusted for inflation. So the tax credits really do make a big difference. And according to a 2024 Outlook report from ProdPro, Toronto is now the #1 preferred location for filming in the world, closely followed by the United Kingdom. And California, they're all the way down at number 6. Now you, like me, might be looking at these numbers and thinking, where are the costs being cut? Isn't this more money than the average viewer will make in their lifetime? But hang on a sec, because you're forgetting all of the people involved in making these projects. Sure, we all know that actors and directors and producers are raking in big bucks, but don't forget all the little guys whose jobs are so very important. Your grips, your cam ops, your catering, hair and makeup, wardrobe, your line producers, and that's not even counting the post-production manpower needed to make Linden look like it's a real place with real trees that really glow in the dark. So yeah, the numbers are higher going in, but there's still a lot of money that needs to go out. Not only that, but the real culprit in all of this mess is actually marketing. See, regardless of reviews, accolades, or awards, a movie or TV show is only considered a success if it makes money. For film, that means box office sales. You guys remember movie theaters? And for TV, that can break down into a couple of different categories. For network TV, that means ad revenue. Basically, advertisers paying the networks to run their ads during premium programming. For cable and streaming, that means subscriber revenue. So marketing campaigns are important to promote new movies and shows so that those dollar bills start rolling in. But in an age where literally everything is throwing ads in our faces, that means marketing campaigns need to cover a lot of bases. And very often, the marketing is going to cost you way more than actually making the film. For example, if we go all the way back to 2017, the movie Get Out only cost about $4.5 million to film and edit, but it's estimated that they had a $30 million price tag on their marketing campaign. So in order to actually make a profit, Get Out needed to make back all the money they spent producing the film, plus all the money they spent marketing the film. Luckily for Get Out, they had a worldwide gross of about $255.5 million, so they were fine. A good rule of thumb in the industry is the 2.5 rule. Basically, you multiply your budget by 2.5, and if your box office gross is equal to or greater than that number, you're golden. But for movies like Fast X, the 10th installment of the Fast and the Furious franchise, they had no such luck. Their production budget was around $340 million. Not surprising, given the huge stunts and big-name cast, all of which increase production costs exponentially. But despite making over $700 million at the box office, it's still considered a flop. It needed somewhere closer to $850 million to turn a profit. Now, if this was 2001, when the first Fast and Furious was released, they could make up for it with all those DVD sales. But unfortunately for Dom and the crew, not even the combo TV-DVD players they stole would make them any money in 2025. So US production companies are looking everywhere to cut costs where they can, while still bringing you quality content that doesn't eat into their marketing budget. Now, it's not all in Canada. Back in 2005, the great state of Georgia introduced a similar tax credit for productions that spend at least $500,000 to film their content. Today, any production spending at least that much money can receive a transferable, non-refundable tax credit of 20%, with another 10% added if you include the Georgia state logo in your opening and closing credits. This explains why so many of the Marvel movies leave no doubt they filmed in Georgia. And they're not the only states offering tax breaks. Illinois, for example, offers a 30% tax break on qualified expenditures that take place in state, and unlike Georgia, you only need to be spending $100,000 to qualify. Now, why would states do this? After all, with budgets this big, why would they give film and video production such a big break when they could be collecting taxes for themselves? Well, remember all of those little people I mentioned? Yeah, by now you should know they're actually a pretty big deal. See, when a film comes to town, they're bringing business. They're maybe bringing some key team members like actors and heads of departments, all of whom need hotel rooms or rental properties and restaurants to eat in for possibly months at a time. Then, of course, there's catering for cast and crew on shoot days, as well as all those incidentals and expendables that a production needs on any given day. They're also bringing jobs. Many states like Georgia, as well as international countries like Canada and the UK, all offer additional incentives or requirements for productions to hire a certain number of above-the-line and below-the-line cast and crew in order to receive those tantalizing tax breaks. And if the movie or show is a big enough hit, then that's bringing tourism, which adds to the local economy in all the same ways from fans like you and me stopping by to see where they film the most epic moments. And all of those dollars going into local economy still result in the state collecting more taxes, just not from the production when it comes to town. So, we've got other US states offering up to a 30% tax credit. Canada with at least a 30% tax credit. The UK, which includes England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, also offers a pretty sweet 25% tax credit with additional deals for anyone who edits or applies VFX with a UK post house. Australia has also been making some major inroads with a 30% tax credit for filming in the land down under. Combining that with current conversion rates of $1 Australian dollar to 65 cents American, Australia might be a real hot market in the near future. And countries in Eastern Europe, like Hungary, are also offering a 30% tax break with the added benefit of much cheaper labor costs. According to a recent estimate, you can hire 7 grips for 30 days in Budapest for roughly the same cost of hiring 1 grip from LA. So what's California's response to all of this? Well, they're working on expanding both the scope of who qualifies for tax credits and the amount that production can receive. But the process is slow going. In the meantime, the wheel of the industry continues to turn, leaving Hollywood at risk of becoming one of the ghost towns it has so often glorified. So what do you think? Can Hollywood survive the current exodus? Or is it destined to sink like the Titanic? Got a spot you think we should be filming in? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching!